In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the Nile flowed like a lifeblood through the land, a young man named Moses lived in the shadows of a grand palace. He was born a Hebrew, yet raised as an Egyptian prince, caught between two worlds. The whispers of his true heritage lingered in his mind, a secret that would soon unravel the fabric of his identity. Moses often wandered away from the palace, seeking solace in the rugged hills and quiet valleys. One day, while exploring a remote area near the river, he stumbled upon a small group of Hebrew slaves. Their faces were etched with fatigue, yet their eyes sparkled with a flicker of hope. The sight struck Moses deeply. He felt an inexplicable pull toward them, a connection he could not ignore. Over time, Moses learned more about their plight, their suffering, their dreams of freedom, and the burdens they carried. It was during these moments that he began to question the life he lived in the palace. One night, under a blanket of stars, he overheard a conversation among the slaves. They spoke of an ancient prophecy, a leader who would arise to deliver them from bondage. Moses felt a stirring within him, a calling he could no longer deny. Driven by a newfound purpose, Moses began to act. He secretly assisted the slaves, providing them with food and supplies stolen from the palace. Each act of defiance against Pharaoh's decree filled him with both fear and exhilaration. However, his secret life could not remain hidden for long. One fateful day, he witnessed a brutal beating of a Hebrew slave by an Egyptian taskmaster. In a moment of rage, Moses intervened, killing the taskmaster in a fit of fury. Realizing the gravity of his actions, Moses fled into the wilderness, leaving behind the life he had known. He wandered for days, lost in thought and grief, until he found refuge in the land of Midian. There, he encountered a group of shepherds and their daughters, who welcomed him. Moses settled into a new life, marrying one of the shepherds and finding solace in the simplicity of the hills. Years passed, but the memory of his people haunted him. One day, while tending to his flock, Moses climbed Mount Horeb. As he approached the summit, a sight unlike any other unfolded before him. A bush aflame yet unconsumed by fire. Drawn closer, he heard a voice calling his name. "Moses, Moses." Trembling, he responded, "Here I am." The voice revealed itself as the voice of God, proclaiming a mission. Moses was to return to Egypt and lead the Hebrews to freedom. The weight of this divine calling pressed heavily on his shoulders. Moses hesitated, questioning his ability to fulfill such a monumental task. But the voice reassured him, promising signs and wonders to accompany him on his journey. With a heart full of fear and faith, Moses returned to Egypt. He confronted Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Hebrews. Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he refused. Thus began a series of divine plagues that shook the land, each more devastating than the last. The Nile turned to blood, swarms of locusts devoured the crops, and darkness enveloped the land. Finally, after the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh relented, allowing the Israelites to leave. The Exodus began, and as they fled into the night, the Israelites felt a mixture of joy and fear. They were free, but the journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty. As they reached the Red Sea, Pharaoh's army pursued them, intent on recapturing the escaped slaves. In desperation, the Israelites cried out to Moses, who stood firm, trusting in the promises he had received. With a raised staff, he called upon God, and the waters of the sea parted, creating a path for the people to walk through. They crossed safely, while the pursuing soldiers were engulfed by the returning waters. In the wilderness, the Israelites faced new challenges: hunger, thirst, and doubt. But Moses, guided by divine wisdom, led them. He climbed Mount Sinai, where he received the 10 Commandments, laws that would define their identity as a people. Moses carried the weight of leadership. guiding them through trials and tribulations, always reminding them of the promise of the land flowing with milk and honey. Yet as he led, the secret of his origins remained a part of him, a reminder of the journey from prince to prophet. Years later, as Moses stood on the brink of the promised land, he reflected on his journey. He had discovered not just the secret of his birth, but the essence of his purpose. It was not merely to lead the Israelites out of slavery, but to guide them into a covenant relationship with God, shaping a nation destined for greatness. Though Moses would not enter the promised land himself, his legacy endured, a testament to the power of faith, redemption, and the unwavering spirit of a leader who answered the call to freedom. The secret of Moses was not just about his identity, but about the transformative journey of a people united in hope and faith.